This is the video tutorial for homework for section 2.2. We'll start with this first section, finding the slope, and then classifying the slope as rising, falling, horizontal, or vertical. All right, in order to do this, the first thing we need to know is we need a formula to find slope, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to let the first set be x1 and y1, and the second set to be x2 and y2. So now I'm just going to plug into the formula. So we're going to say m equals, my y2 is 3, minus my y1 is negative 4. Make sure you get the y's with the y's and the x's with the x's. My x2 is a negative 1, minus my x1, so minus a negative. So now I'm going to work through my signs here. Since I have minus a negative, that's going to become plus a positive. So anytime you have minus a negative, it becomes plus a positive there, and plus a positive there. So now when I combine my signs, so I go 3 plus a positive, gives us 7 over, and then negative 1 plus a positive, so 5 and a negative 1 gives us 4. That will not reduce, so since that will not reduce, our slope, m, is 7 over 4. And that is a positive, so since it is a positive, it rises. If it would have been a negative, it would have fallen. If it would have been 0, it would have been horizontal. If it would have been undefined or a number over 0, it would have been vertical. And that is your answer for number 9. We now move on to the next section. In the next section, I will work number 19. And in this section, we are going to determine if the two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. In order to be parallel, the slope of each line has to be the same. In order to be perpendicular, the slope of each line has to be the opposite reciprocal. And if it's not one of those two, it would be neither. So I'm going to start with number 1. So I'm going to say my L1 is just going to be y minus y, so that's going to go negative 2 minus 5, and then 3 minus 1. Negative 2 minus 5 is a negative 7. 3 minus 1 is 2. So my slope there is a negative 7 over 2, since it will not reduce. That's my slope for line 1. Now I'll do the same thing for line 2. So I'm going to go 0 minus 2 over 4 minus negative 3. Y minus y, x minus x. Now since I have the minus and negative, I'm going to change those to positive. 0 minus 2 is a negative 2. 4 plus 3 is a positive 7. So now we have slope on this one is going to be a negative 2 over 7. Now on this one, it appears that it could be, at first glance, that it could be perpendicular because they have the reciprocal of the fraction. However, they do not have the opposite sign. This one is a negative, and this one is also a negative. In order to be perpendicular, they have to have opposite signs. And since they don't, this one is neither. So your answer on this one would be neither. Because they're the same, they would be parallel, opposite reciprocals, perpendicular. If it's not one of those two, they are neither. We now move on to number 25. And this one we are working with the average rate of change. Rate of change works the same as slope. It is going to be your change in y over your change in x. So your change in your dependent over the change in your independent. So in this case, it's going to be our change in, it's going to be 50. So we're going to say 50 minus 11. So we went 50 minus 11 over the 3 minus 0. 50 minus 11 gives us 39. And 3 minus 0 is 3. Your Y is miles, so that's going to be miles on top. And that's going to be gallons on bottom. So whenever we reduce, those are both divisible by 3, so that's going to be 39 divided by 3 is 1, 3. So it's going to be 13 over 1, so that's going to be 13 miles per 1 gallon. So if that's 13 miles per gallon is your answer for number 25. We now move on to number 33. We're going to find the slope of the line passing through the 2 points, still using the same formula as we did before with the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now this time we're working with decimals, but everything works the exact same. So I'm going to say y minus y, so that's going to be a negative 0.8 minus 2.2. All that divided by x minus x, which is 1.7 minus 0.3. So now I have it set up. Make sure you go y minus y and x minus x. Negative 0.8, negative 2.2, those are like signs, so I end up adding, and that gives us a negative 3.0. Divided by 1.7, sorry, that was a negative 0.3. So 1.7 minus a negative 0.3, the minus a negative becomes a plus, a positive, so 1.7 plus 0.3, sorry about that, a positive 2.0. So now I'm going to reduce. So whenever I reduce my slope, negative 3 and 2, they won't reduce any. So I just leave that as a negative 3 over 2, which you could reduce to be a negative 1/2. When working with your decimals, you can give your answer as a decimal. Do not leave any decimals in your fraction. So if you're left with decimals, make sure you just divide it out and give me the decimal answer. And that is your answer for number 33, and that concludes the video tutorial for section 2.2.